You're listening to Answers for the Family with Allen Cardoza and Matt Polachek, only on LA Talk Radio.
Another edition of Answers for the Family. I'm your host, Allen Cardoza. My co-host, Dr. Matt Polachek, is helping clients this morning, but we'll be back next week, which is something that I'm looking forward to. Now, for whoever it is that wrote the song, It Never Rains in California, guess what? Might be time to rewrite that one because we sure got a lot of it. And for those of you that have been listening, sending out questions and comments, please continue to tell others, tell your friends to listen. And I want you to know that we very much appreciate it. And please continue to help spread the word that every Monday from 11 a.m. to noon Pacific time, this show will bring you special guests that can inspire, educate, and in some cases entertain, while bringing answers and options to making your lives happier, healthier, and more successful. This show will address issues such as locating a runaway teen, family crisis intervention, building self-esteem, dealing with addictions, and so much more. We will introduce you to talented authors and new innovations in the areas of health, security, and fun for you and your family. Now, with our experience working with families in crisis, we've been fortunate to meet and work with some of the top professionals in many of the helping fields who are all working to make this world a better place for all of us. Now, our topic today is Hope Coming, a new therapy that wipes out cancer cells with no side effects and no damage to the healthy cells. As soon as I saw this, I had to have this guest on the show because this is something that could certainly change. It's just earth-shattering. It can change the world. And our guest lab is researching and conducting clinical trials using a therapy that combines a drug and a special wavelength of light that activates the drug, which is called photodynamic therapy. To tell us more about this groundbreaking therapy, our guest, Dr. Matthew Gdovin, is an associate professor of physiology at the University of Texas at San Antonio and received his PhD in physiology at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. Matthew has received 10 teaching awards, including the Sloan Foundation's Faculty Mentor of the Year and the University of Texas Systems Regents Outstanding Teacher Award. His research currently encompasses a plethora of scientific fields, including the developmental neural control of respiratory, of respiration, which is focused on furthering the understanding of neurological respiratory disease. Doctor, welcome to Answers for the Family.
Thank you for having me, Alan. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and share with you the really exciting news that we have coming out of the University of Texas at San Antonio.
Well, I guess to start off with, how did you find this combination of protocols that is taking us in this direction of really groundbreaking research?
Well, my training at Dartmouth was as a neurophysiologist, and for many, many years, I've been at UT San Antonio for 20 years now, and for about 17 of those years, I was studying special neurons in the brain that respond to acid. So I had gotten quite good at imaging live neurons and seeing how they handled an acidic challenge. And it's really a good example of that is if a person was to hold their breath or to stop breathing, their blood would become slightly acidic. And these special neurons trigger you to breathe. And that was really important because it was thought that babies that died from sudden infant death syndrome were lacking those neurons. So I was really into neural development, but studying how cells regulated acid. And I was trying to find a way to make these cells acidic just on the inside. Couldn't really find anything in the literature in which I could do that because I was imaging them and watching them in real time regulate their pH. And I developed this technique to cause an acidosis inside of a cell as a compound called nitrobenzaldehyde diffuses across the cell membrane and sort of gets trapped inside of cells. Well, when you hit that nitrobenzaldehyde with a specific wavelength of light, it makes the inside acidic. And I was pretty excited to do that and record it, and sort of serendipitously, one of my students later said, "Did you ever screw that up?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Did you ever make the cells too acidic?" And I said, "Yeah, probably, when I was trying to fine-tune everything." So the point is, I'm not a cancer biologist. I was not trained as a cancer biologist. And when I said, "Why do you ask?" And he said, "I think there's something we could do that would be useful with that." It took me about a week to read the scientific literature in cancer to know that all cancers excel in growth in environments where normal cells can't. Cancers regulate their pH differently than other cells. Lots of failed attempts to get cancer to become acidic on the inside. And I was kind of blown away. I said, well, I've kind of figured out a way to do something that these experts in the cancer field are saying would be really transformative.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's just absolutely phenomenal. I know that my uncle, who went through cancer treatment, and he said that his doctor spoke about the fact of cancer living in an acidic environment, and to raise their pH, so that they're less acidic, that the cancer, would have less chance of living. I love the fact that what you're talking about, or as a layman is seeing it, is that you're allowing that. You're allowing it to get so acidic inside that it's committing suicide. Is that
That's
good?
Correct. And in fact, the first test we did here in the lab was test a non-cancerous cell type. We just transformed everything in the lab. We started growing our own cells, and we grew a non-cancerous cell, and basically applied this technique. And all cells can tolerate, mild acidosis. Mm-hmm. The beauty of our treatment that we're hoping to develop for human patients is that we can cause such a rapid, profound acidosis. It's like hitting it with Thor's hammer of light, just this mm-hmm. acid they can't recover from. They can't adapt to it. They are so acidic it triggers a cell death pathway that's been actually quite well known. We had success in then we started trying to kill cancers in the Petri dish.
And then, but yet at the same time, you can maintain a person's pH balance outside of the cancer cells so that it doesn't harm any other cells. Because I think that's the biggest issue whenever anybody starts talking about any form of cancer therapy, that you're harming very healthy cells as well.
Right, and for your audience, you can sort of just grasp some of these statistics just for the United States, that 1.7 million cancer cases will be diagnosed in 1 year, and a third of them will die. And cancer doesn't rest. It doesn't discriminate between young and old. It doesn't know socioeconomic boundaries. It has evolved to destroy human life. And the interesting thing is in all of our personal experiences, we've seen the decimated weight loss and the hair loss and the upset stomach and the sores and all the different things are associated with the therapy, not with the cancer, but with the therapy. And so we were pretty excited to really just kind of push this technology and see if we could demonstrate that we have a precision.
You were talking a little bit about, how the ability to not only, have it commit suicide from the inside, but to be able to maintain healthy cells around it. Whereas, when you have types of therapy that make people sick or cause them other problems, that this is now a way to avoid that.
Right. What happens is, in our studies, both in the Petri dish, and I'd love to share with you the studies we've done in animals, is that the compound by itself does nothing harmful. I mean, we've tested that in the Petri dish. Just sits there. The cancer cells actually thrive and grow just as they normally would in the presence of the drug. They also thrive and grow in the presence of the light. So if you had a tumor that was injected with this compound and it diffused out into healthy tissue, we just don't shine the light in the healthy tissue. So it's a level of precision that it is only the combination of the drug and the light that causes the reaction. And the reaction is unbelievably deadly.
That's great. So that allows you to pinpoint a problem rather than have somebody go through a type of therapy that causes problems with sometimes, various organs within the body.
Right. So, as we start to look at this and try to develop the technology, our goal was to see how it could be used and how it could add value to oncologists, surgeons, and to cancer patients. And oftentimes you'll hear a physician say, the tumor is wrapped around a vital structure. We can't surgically remove it. We can't scrape it off. We can't aim radiation there. We'll destroy your aorta, or it's wrapped around your heart. And so what we're hoping to develop is a technique that we've got that is so precise and so discreet in where we're not so concerned about where we inject the drug, but where we direct the light. As we direct the light, in a petri dish, we can have a cell receive the light and the drug, and the one right next to it receive nothing, or just the drug, and nothing happens to it. So we're talking at the cellular differences, and with I would say as the technology would be advanced with sort of robotic guided lasers and so forth, I imagine that to be a huge reality. Then you don't have the damage to the healthy surrounding tissue. You may be able to offer a treatment to a person who couldn't have a surgery as well. Some patients are not candidates for surgery.
Sure.
This would not be a surgery. This would be, as any interventional radiologist would tell you, there's no part in the human body that they think they can't reach with a fiber optic light. So.
Wow. One question that actually a friend of mine asked when I was telling him that you were coming on the show, and they brought up the fact in regards to Big Pharma. They said, is Big Pharma supportive of this, or is Big Pharma looking at this maybe as something that threatens their livelihood?
I think that's a good question, and I don't really know what Big Pharma thinks because they haven't talked to me yet, but I think that, my goal is to say, I think the first place that this technology can ease human suffering is in phase 1 clinical trials, not down the road where it's made into a drug that's distributed in a hospital. The first place is in phase 1 clinical trials, and my lab team and everything we do is focused on that. I think that with the right strategic partnership, you could partner with a Big Pharma because they may be able to fund some of it and develop it faster than I could on my own. But those are things down the road. Our immediate focus is how can we get the FDA to look at what we've done and to do all the necessary due diligence and safety experiments to be able to offer this in a phase 1 clinical trial.
Now, when you say how can we get the FDA to look at it, has there been some concerns or has there been some delays? And if so, why?
No, there haven't been any delays. But the research laboratory and the experiments that we need to do, so we've spoken to some FDA regulatory consultants and some people at the FDA. So we have a good idea of the type of work that we need to do. And so I'm continuing to write grants and try to raise money through my university to fund the experiments, and that's really where we are right now. We've done work to hopefully get granting agencies excited and perhaps people interested in donating, because we've used the technology to kill not just the breast cancer, the triple-negative breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, and 2 forms of prostate cancer, all in the research laboratory in just the last part of 2016. So to be able to put in a grant or to tell somebody that you've developed something that could be non-invasive, fairly non-invasive, not cause systemic side effects, and guess what? It kills any kind of cancer. The mechanism by which it works is something that all cancers use, and basically all cells use. They can't tolerate a really quick and rapid acidosis, and they basically give up and kill themselves. And so that's the real power of this potential transformative technology and we don't believe there's a cancer that we can't kill, as long as we can, again, in our animal models, find a way to get to it and deliver both the compound and the light.
Well, I mean, as you're explaining it, I now want to do anything possible to spread the word. In fact, I'm surprised that that major networks and stuff haven't picked this up, and I'm surprised that, I mean, as you said earlier, you said that there is no socioeconomic barrier. This affects all of us. I'm surprised that with all of the very wealthy people out there that are also, just as susceptible to some form of cancer, aren't rushing to you to give you money to be able to speed up whatever it is you need as far as these trials. I mean,
yeah. The press release that you read was, it went all over the world, and I get letters, emails, and phone calls every day from people that have cancer or have a loved one that has cancer, and it hurts me to have to tell them right now I'm in what's called the preclinical phase, and I can't offer this to your father or to your aunt or to your child. It's really, really difficult, and I have 18 students working in this laboratory that have jobs here, and full-time students and so forth, and it's pretty sobering. We can sit there and say, wow, we've really discovered something really great. But in the big picture, we really just need to work harder and try to accelerate this as quick as possible.
Well, I know that I will do my part. And again, for anybody out there listening, spread this information, spread it out. Everybody knows somebody. We've all lost somebody or nearly lost somebody from cancer. In this day and age of social media, it's interesting that we can get either a joke or a bad or some sort of a political opinion, and we can spread it all over the world and reach 100 million people. We now have something that is more important than all of those things. So if for everybody out there, spread the word. You can go to the doctor's website, which is G as in George, D as in David, O, V as in Victor, IN, lab, LAB, U as in Union, T as in Tom, S as in Sam, A apple.edu. And for those of you that are driving, we will have all of this information on our Answers for the Family site. So you can go there as well. You can pick up the information, and please spread the word. Right now, I don't think there is anything that can have a greater impact on all of our lives than this research that is being done right now. Again, as soon as I heard about it, I thought, this is it. This is what for many, many years people have been looking for, is something that that can take away one of the biggest killers out there.
Right, and I would say one of the reasons you're surprised people aren't approaching me, and a few people have approached me that I've spoken to as a result of them contacting me. But when so we filed a patent to protect the technology, so the university will hold the patent. I'm one of the inventors on it. And it's very different, in science you're told, publish, 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 publish. Once you have something that's patentable, the university and the lawyers tell you, hold it back just a bit, just to make sure that everything's in place, so that then we can secure the intellectual property. So I just had 2 manuscripts that I'm working on to submit and have published in the mainstream scientific journals, and I would anticipate a lot more interest after that. But it was sort of just a difference in mindset for us. We were told to just kind of hold back. But we did what's called proof of concept experiments, in which we had to demonstrate there are a lot of things that will work in the Petri dish to kill cancer that don't work when you put them into an animal model. But we were able to use an animal model, a mouse model, to give them the triple-negative breast cancer, one of the most aggressive types of cancers in the world, and then show that we could reduce its growth rate and shrink it and more than double the life expectancy of the animals with one single treatment. But one of the things that's, I think, more interesting and exciting was there are a lot of different ways in which we quantify, or we sort of check the animals. We weigh them every day. We look at their grooming. We look at their behavior. And so these animals that were getting this treatment showed no difference in their activity, their behavior, their grooming, their playing with the other mice. even though they had a tumor that was shrinking, which gives us so much confidence that we can do something in the human trials that will not cause a systemic side effect. We would have seen systemic side effects in the mice. They would have been just laying there panting or having some behavior that was different.
That it's just, I mean, it's so amazing to me, and I'm just dumbfounded, that we're this close, and that we don't have every government and everybody, jumping on board. But I know, as I said, in this day and age, we can make a difference. We as people can make a difference, and I'm so glad that you are making this difference. And I have somebody that's now sending in an email question or a comment. So let me share this. This one reads, it is very encouraging and so exciting to learn of your treatment protocol. As a breast cancer survivor, there isn't a day that goes by that the thought of its return does not cross my mind. As I am sure you must hear from many others, when this treatment is approved, how long do you believe it will be before it will be available to the public?
That's a great question, and there's always that concern for a recurrence of a cancer. Patients will have a great response to chemotherapy, and if your viewers or listeners can just imagine in their mind that a few of those cancer cells stay behind, and they're not killed by the chemo. In fact, they can live in the chemo. It could be years later where they begin to grow again, and now you have a tumor that's what's called drug resistant. That same drug that had such great results the first time is ineffective. We've developed and have a project looking at our treatment's ability to kill drug-resistant cancers, and based on some preliminary data, there's no reason to think that we couldn't also tackle that recurrence of a drug-resistant cancer. And for everyone who's listening and says, that sounds too good to be true, I actually believe it may be a very transformative type of approach. I'm happy to answer the question, when could we see this in people? Phase 1 clinical trials, and if I could secure some funding that I've applied for or get some donations and so forth, my target, if I had the money today, would be 18 to 24 months. I would be starting phase 1 clinical trials at multi-centers in the United States. And one of the things that we're hoping to do is to, when you approach the FDA and say we have this treatment, and you have to give what's called an indication. So for the layperson, that's what cancer are we going to go after? What one cancer are we going to say that this works on? And since we realize it kills multiple types of cancers, we are going to include in our phase 1 trial multiple types of cancers. Right now, we're just considering, but we will validate the choices, but we would consider a breast cancer, perhaps some skin cancers, things that would be readily accessible, and other cancers that aren't responding well to current therapeutics. And I would say to run the phase 1 clinical trials at multiple sites would give a lot more opportunity for patients to inquire. I mean, that's what everybody's asking me right now. Where's the clinical trial for this? And I have to tell them there isn't one yet.
Right, but so what you're saying is, but it's 18 months to 2 years until you can run the trials, and then based on that, how long till the FDA would approve something like that?
Well, the way it works, my understanding, it would be is that I would approach the FDA with this idea to do a couple of cancers in a clinical trial after I collect some more data, and that they would approve it as an investigational new drug. That opens it up for clinical trials. Typically, there are 3 phases. There's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 clinical trials, and then phase 2 and phase 3. And one of the key differences, the number of patients steadily increases till phase 3 is thousands of people. So even though you could say that may be several years down the road from getting the FDA approval to start phase 1, you're still having the ability to impact thousands and thousands of people.
Gotcha.
So that's the way I choose to look at it. I don't choose to look at it from sort of any other point of view other than how is this going to get into the hands of the people that can deliver it to patients.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. and this may be a little talking out of school on this one. Is there any thought or benefit or whatever to run trials in another country that might allow it to go quicker?
I've been approached by physicians in Ecuador to run trials there.
Okay.
And I didn't get tremendous details from them about that, but I was working on the goal to get approval here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people can afford to go to Ecuador, but not everybody can. And there was just a concern that work done in another country may tarnish or jeopardize the chance to get as a clear approval path in the United States.
Okay, yeah, that kind of answers the question, because in my mind I was sort of envisioning, is it something that you can have two different trials going on simultaneously, but one is happens to be going faster than the other? But I didn't think about what the point you just made is if one tarnishes the trials for the other, obviously that's not a good thing. So. Mm-hmm.
I would like to just share something else too with you and your listeners, and that is, when I was working with the university and they did all their legal searches and said, yeah, this looks patentable. There's nothing like this in the patent literature. I was like, okay, I was all excited, submitted the patent and then did everything else I was supposed to. I said, well, what happens to it now? And they said, oh, well, we licensed the technology to a company, and then if they develop it and there's royalties, then you would get royalty money as an inventor. And I said, well, what company? And they said, we don't know. We'll look and see who wants to do it. And I said, oh, okay. And I prayed about it and thought about it and decided I'm going to make a company. Yeah. And I'm going to develop this to take to phase 1 clinical trials. And so I did. The name of the company is called Vita Nova Biomedical. That's Latin for new life. I've formed a core group of people. I'm the scientific advisor. I have a CEO, Tom Roberts, and a group of core people that all have, and the one thing I told them in sort of forming this company was, you have to care about people more than you care about profits. You have to have the same passion that I have to deliver this to people. Otherwise, we're not going to have a good relationship. And I understand that if we take this company, we're not by any means big pharma. We're microscopic pharma. We're a small biotech startup company that is trying to sort of make this bridge from the scientific work that I do in the lab to sort of the regulatory FDA face of a company that wants to develop this for clinical trials. So typically, companies run clinical trials, not universities. So and I kind of realized that, and I thought, well, I don't know if I'd find anybody that's as excited as me at some other company, so I think I'll just do it. And I really had to pray about it a lot and make sure I felt comfortable with that whole direction, and I feel great about it. And so we as a company are working then to sort of marry the research we do here with the research that the company can provide and some of the resources that the company can provide. Our CEO has taken multiple devices through FDA approval. It's commonplace to him. I'm blessed to have him want to be a part of the company, and so we are excited to make progress there.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's staying in the hands of people who are focused on people first and profit second. I don't begrudge anybody to make a profit, but not when it's over and above saving lives. So I commend you on that. One of the thoughts, have you guys looked into crowdfunding in this day and age? Because there's now equity crowdfunding. I would think that an equity crowdfunding campaign would bring in millions of dollars. Maybe I had just got done doing an analysis for some of the animal research for the clinical trial, and it was $1.4 million. And I had a phone call from a very nice lady from Colorado who was talking about her daughter that had breast cancer, and I told her I was going to pray for her daughter, and she was kind of taken aback, and she asked me a bit about myself, and I said, I'm just trying to see if this can help people. And she said, I sure would like to help you. And I said, I need $1.4 million.
And I don't know why I said that. And there was a long pause, and she said, I'd like to try to help you. So I think when you look at maybe I'm ignorant to think that it can be done in a different way, but I believe it can. I believe that we have a crowdfunding site, since you mentioned it. The University of Texas at San Antonio created a crowdfunding site for us, and we had it run through the end of December, and it was successful. We raised over $11,000, and I can give you the link to it if you're interested, but they reopened it because they were trying to help us, continue our fundraising efforts to do more research. So there are people out there that are interested in just being a part of something that can bring some good to the world.
Well, please go ahead and give us that link, and then at the same time, again, I'll have it put on our site as well, on the Answers for the Family site. But I'd love for you to put it out there right now. Everybody, if grab something, write this down, pull your phone out so that you can record this or dictate it, but take this information. Go ahead.
If they search for fund.utsa.edu, it will take you to the UTSA crowdfunding site. They can also type /cancer research. But the very first link, that fund.utsa.edu, is Shine a Light on Cancer. And there's a short 2-minute video that we made about what we do and how we can use the money that comes in and what we would use it for. And I think that's going to be open for another week.
All right. Well, everybody heard that. This is to shine a light on cancer. We're going to take a break right now. Stay with us. Feel free to pull up that site right now while we go to break. You're listening to Answers for the Family. We'll be right back. Founded over 25 years ago to meet the needs of families in crisis, West Shield specializes in resolving adolescent issues that negatively impact the family. From preteen to young adult, we are experienced and qualified to help. We offer solutions which include referrals to a network of top professionals internationally that we work very closely with in the fields of educational consulting, psychology, and psychiatry. Our in-home crisis intervention care program helps to stabilize families and bring effective resolution. We are supported by our licensed investigation company that enables us to offer legal and expert services for locating runaway teens and more. Our therapeutic transportation services help to ensure that adolescents in crisis are safely provided transportation to specialized schools and programs with unmatched experience and success. Simply put, West Shield Adolescent Services is the best solution when your family is facing personal crisis. Call 1-800-899-8585 and let us help you. And we're back. We are talking about a new therapy that wipes out cancer cells with no side effects and no damage to healthy cells. So to me, this is just phenomenal. So, Doctor, we've got another message that has come in, and this one touches on that issue that we spoke about a little while ago in regards to big pharma. So this question and or comment is: the pharmaceutical companies have so many millions invested in chemotherapy and other very expensive cancer drugs. What do you believe their action or reactions will be when a therapy such as yours hits mainstream? That can do so much more for so much less. My father died of cancer, and the deadly cocktail of radiation and chemo was horrible on him. So you can imagine that this news gives us all so much hope. Matthew, what's your comment in regards to that?
Well, first, that is the sad reality is that the chemicals that we have to give, the oncologists give to do their best to kill the cancer, can be devastating to the rest of the body. I know my mother, currently a stage 4 colon cancer patient, and she's been blessed that she's had chemotherapy and she's had some surgical resections and she's doing very well. But it is a reality. A lot of people ask me about the position of big pharma, and I almost feel like I don't want to speak for them because I'm not them. I know that we could just objectively say, from what I've learned, they may spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on 100 drugs, 99 which fail, for the one that works. So they do have, as a business, they have things to recoup. But I think with respect to something as simple as what we've developed, that we believe it will be transformative in two areas. And one is in delivering patients some relief without systemic side effects. The other one could very well be on the financial burden on the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. If you look at, and your listeners can think of loved ones in their lives that have either gone through some of these treatments or have passed away, the common thing is return visits back to the doctor because I've got blisters in my mouth and I can't eat, or the GI tract is just destroyed. I need to go back. And so even just from a financial aspect of it, we think that we could have a significant impact and to maybe ease some of the financial burden.
Well, and again, I mean, that sounds great. I think the concern that the people have with big pharma, and it's sort of, woven through the medical community, is that, it's now providing a lot of jobs. I mean, so all of these times in which you have people coming back to the doctor, in fact, somebody had told me, and I hate to repeat something if I don't know that it's absolutely true, but that chemotherapy, recommending chemotherapy is one of the areas that doesn't fall within the Safe Harbor Act, meaning that doctors can own part of a place that does chemotherapy or can benefit from that, from making that recommendation.
That's true. I've heard the same thing, so I'll just say that.
Yeah, and I heard it from a doctor, but I didn't do my normal due diligence. But so to me, that's just wrong on so many ways. I mean, the idea of the Safe Harbor Act is just for that reason, so that there is no other motivation other than the best interest of the patient. So I think the concern that obviously many people have in regards to big pharma or just big med now is if you bring something in that is potentially going to reduce all of their incomes, that it may be easier to try to either demonize it or buy it and shelf it, or buy it and mark the price up so much that it can only be used for the elite. I mean, that's some of the issues that I see. I'm curious what you see are potential problems.
Well, I would say I've conducted what's called customer discovery, and so I've gone and interviewed oncologists and radiologists, and I interviewed social workers, and I would just ask them about their job. I wouldn't really necessarily tell them what we had, and I would always ask the same question at the end. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing, what would it be? Virtually every oncologist said drugs that are less toxic. And social workers said, we have patients that we work so hard to get them coverage for their treatment, yet they don't show up because they don't have transportation. Wow. And so there's a financial sort of side effect of cancer. It's a symptom, and it's called bankruptcy. And so I would say in response to my conversation with a representative from Big Pharma when they came, and I went up to him in a little Q&A, and I said, hey, what would you think if I told you I had a treatment that I could demonstrate could kill any type of cancer? What would you think if I told you that? And he looked at me and he said, I would tell you that I think you're lying to me. So because that doesn't really exist, at least hopefully it exists now. So I would say this. I know I've talked to my core team of people. I've talked to one of the potential investors. They asked me, I would never induce a clinical trial with a placebo. I think that's unethical. I would never sell my company unless I could guarantee the pharma company would accelerate its advancement. So they'd have to meet milestones that I put in. If I thought, oh, this would really help my little company prove so many good things, got FDA approval, and we can really accelerate this to people because some big company has 400 scientists working in a building on it. So there would be reasons in which I would consider doing that if I could put milestones in the agreement that says you have to do phase 2 in 12 months, and you have to do this. And so, as far as the medical community adopting it, I can say this: that may be one of the transformative components of it, because if it works in human beings like it works right now, they will adopt it.
Hey, from your lips.
Right.
Yeah, I absolutely.
I mean, and like you said, with social media, if there was enough of a grassroots movement, once this would be demonstrated safe by the FDA to work, if there was any resistance on any of those fronts that your listener emailed in, I think the solution there is just be completely transparent and say, okay, well then, ask about this. Ask the physician about this type of treatment. There's photodynamic therapy right now. It uses a completely different mechanism. It's been successful in pre-esophageal cancer and a few other types of cancers. It hasn't proven to be maybe quite as prevalent, but it's being used. And so the healthcare field is familiar with the photodynamic type of therapy. And I think once I write some of these papers and have these papers come out and I told my students, I said, I already have a job that I like, so if we get invited to go give seminars and speeches, you go do it. And they are fantastic students. Many of them, last 2 years, I've got 9 students that graduated into top PhD programs in medical schools in the country, because they run the experiments. They can talk about them at the same level that I can. And I call it the infectious nature of greatness. They are so fantastic. They have no idea. I see it because I'm the only one in the lab that has a PhD. but they are really talented. We have a talented group of students to pull from here. And, I think if there's more public awareness, somebody made a video of our press release using stock video. It got 32 million views in a month, and I was shocked. I was looking at this thing, I said, wow, that's really crazy. I wonder what would happen if we made our own video and talked about as we progressed, and we made our own video and said, hey, we've killed 6 different types of cancers. Some of the most difficult types of cancers to treat in human beings. We killed 92% of pancreatic cancer cells in the first 3 minutes of the treatment.
Wow.
In a petri dish. They're just decimated. And so the challenge is then saying, well, what works in the petri dish needs to work in the mouse. What works in the mouse needs to work safely in humans. And that's really where we are right now is through, like I said, this joint effort between Vita Nova Biomedical, and they have carved out a niche of tasks that we need them to do. And the basic research, we call it basic research here in the laboratory, to develop new technologies and to advance the technology. And so we're pretty excited. I don't sleep very much.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, again, like I said, is that I'm excited, and a couple of thoughts. One is you mentioned something a little bit earlier about the fact that you're talking with professionals that are saying that they have people who are in treatment that are, quote, so broke that they can't get transportation to their treatment. So if I can put something out there, I mean, one of the things that what one of my companies does is therapeutic transport. So for those, either the experts out there or if there are patients out there, if that's what's going on, and if you can't get to your treatment, go online, contact me through West Shield or even through Answers for the Family. I'll have one of my people, if I have somebody in that, and I have people in many, many cities, if I have somebody in that city, we will get somebody out there to pick you up and to take you to treatment, because that is just a shame that we could be in that situation. And for any of the programs, if you are, if you're a program that's providing the treatment, direct those people to us. Just tell them, look, I'm not asking you to pay for it, but at least, you have somebody that's not showing up, give them our number and say, look, here's somebody that will get you here. And we have people who are well trained to be able to therapeutically get people to whatever program or treatment that they need. So that was my first thought. The second thing is, I just want to thank you so much, Doctor, not only for coming on, but for everything that you are doing. I want to acknowledge the fact that, I think that you are doing something that can change, it can change the lives of millions of people. So please feel free to come back on at any time. If you contact me or you contact my producer and say, we've got something new, we want to come on, we want to get the information out there, let me know. We will get you on just as quickly as possible because I think it's that important.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that and the opportunity. I would like to talk to you off the air about we want to develop a therapeutic transport here with a student group that was just formed from my lab. They call themselves the Cancer Fight Club, and they wanted to transport patients. And they were just so upset to hear that these people have insurance. They just can't go to the grocery store to pick up prescriptions.
Wow.
It's a reality that is very sobering to think about.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me on, and anybody who's interested in contacting me, my email address will be on your site, and it's matthew.gdovin@utsa.edu, and they can call the lab if they wish. I'm happy to share what we're doing here with anybody who's interested, and if anyone's interested in helping us accelerate this, I'm happy to have them on board.
That's great. Again, thank you so much. And for everybody else out there, please be sure to put it on your calendar and tune in next week when we are joined by Dr. Holly Parker, author of If We're Together, Why Do I Feel So Alone? So, and again, if you've missed any shows, feel free to go to our website, answersforthefamily.com, and you can listen to archive shows. You can go there. You can listen to this show again so that you can tell your friends, listen to this show, especially if you have anybody who is going through any form of cancer research. Have them go through, have them listen to this show. So share it. And the next time that you're on Facebook or Twitter, please remember to stop by our page, check out some of our posts. We try to keep them updated. If you like them, please like us and spread the word. So be good human beings, and thank you from Answers for the Family.
You're listening to Answers for the Family with Allen Cardoza and Matt Polachek, only on LA Talk Radio.